Always remember the purpose of the interview process. It's to determine whether or not a candidate is going to be a good fit with the position he or she is being considered to fill and with your organization in general. It's not about trying to sell them into the company. You want to ask the questions and give them the information they need so you can determine if they're going to be a good fit and contribute successfully to your organization, and they can learn whether or not your business is going to be a good fit for them. So always keep that in mind. And when you're asking the questions, make sure that you ask curiosity-based follow-up questions. So if somebody says something that doesn't feel right, ask for clarification. Say, well, is there anybody we can check with to verify what you said? Or can you give us more details about that? Or can you give us another example? Or do you have any work product that will support that? Make sure that you politely get all the information you need to help you make a good decision. Let's get started with the basics. And in interview one, the candidate's usually going to come in a little bit nervous, all dressed up, looking good, ready for a formal interview. So you want to interview them somewhere in a semi-formal or formal location, like an office or a nice conference room. The questions that you ask should focus on resume information so you can get further clarification on what you learned during the screening process. If there were anything that was uncertain, then you want to get that cleared up. Any information that was received via the references, when you check those, you want to get all of those clarified. And you can move on to any other appropriate questions as it relates to how they're going to fit well with your organization. Whether you do it in the first interview or throughout the 3 interviews, you want to make sure that you fully explained everything that you prepared as to the responsibilities and expectations are of the role that they are being considered to fill. Make sure that they are comfortable with that, and that's a great question. Here's what we expect from this position. Here's how we do our work here. Here's the way we value your results. Here's how you'll be evaluated. Are you comfortable with that? And you also want to explain about your culture. This is our management philosophy. This is the way we do business. This is why we do business. These are the values, standards, principles, practices that we won't compromise while doing business. Would you be comfortable in that type of an environment? So you want to get that information. The interviewers that you choose for this particular interview, you can have a direct report in there, somebody that's going to be a supervisor or a manager, maybe a potential team member, maybe an HR staff or HR consultant. Some even use business consultants from outside that help them with the interviewing process, but don't have more than 2 interviewers in this first interview because you don't want to make it an intimidating process for the candidate. Okay, for the second interview, this should be a little bit more of a relaxed location, maybe a smaller informal conference room or a lounge. This would be a great time that if you want to do a panel interview so that you have people that candidate will be likely to interact with in the position being filled, this would be a great time for a panel interview. There shouldn't be any more than 4 interviewers. Again, you don't want to make it look like an inquisition. 4 seems to be a good number. Focus on the specific responsibilities and expectations of the job, on the work environment, on the management philosophy that I mentioned earlier, and ask if the candidate is going to be comfortable with those things. Interview 3, I like to interview people or suggest that people be interviewed over food, not necessarily to see if they talk with their mouth full or not, but to see how they treat wait staff. A lot can be said about the way people treat wait staff. If they're going to dismiss them or treat them as less than, they're probably going to have that same approach to coworkers as well. At this time, you can focus on what the candidate feels he or she can contribute to the organization, why they want to work for your particular business, and any issues that need to be clarified from previous interviews. It's a good idea to have the direct report involved in this interview and maybe even a higher level manager or a director. Whatever is going to help get all the information you need to make a good decision. Now, if you feel you need to go to a 4th interview, that's fine, even if you want to go to a 5th, but always interview at least 3 times. So once you have all the information that you need from the interviews, then you need to collaborate, review notes, get opinions from all the interviewers, and then the decision maker needs to make a decision. And once that decision is made, you can inform the candidate, make them an offer, and see if they're going to accept it. There may be some negotiations going on here. Or you can let the candidate know that the position was filled by another candidate. Let me make one final point here about compensation. If compensation comes up during any of the interviews when you're not ready or the interviewers aren't ready to bring it up, then it can't be dismissed, but it's possible that you may need to let the candidate know that those decisions are made by other people and that you can make arrangements to have that discussion in the next interview. It's going to come up. People want to know what they're going to be paid, and you got to make sure they fit within your budget range. Once the decision is made, make an offer. The next step will be getting the employee assimilated into your organization, or what they call onboarding.